Welcome into Sideline Signal. I'm Andrew, as always, joined by my wonderful co-host Tyler Dorr. How you doing today?
I am great. Football season is right here. I can smell it. We got Ravens and Chiefs tomorrow night as the NFL gets kicked off. Also, full swing college football. We had an amazing week one this past weekend. A lot of great stuff.
Yeah, and as always, so we will be going through some of our games of the week for the NFL. We both picked two games that we've highlighted that are either going to be really good matchups that are going to be exciting to see week one, or some matchups that might not be the best on paper that have some good storylines behind them. We'll be going through some of our bets that we think are locks this week. And we're going to look a little bit at college towards the end and see some of our players who are rising and falling in stock. So without further ado, Tyler, what do you have as your first game of the week?
So, no surprise here. It's going to be the first game of the NFL season. The Baltimore Ravens are traveling to Arrowhead, to Kansas City to go play Pat Mahomes and the Chiefs. Obviously, tomorrow night, 8:20 p.m. Eastern time. This game has so many different storylines. Lamar, he looks like in great shape. They just got Derrick Henry. Their defense is going to be somewhat the same. Obviously, they lost Patrick Queen, but still loaded defensively against Kansas City. Reworked offense, a lot more weapons for Pat Mahomes this year. Is Travis Kelce declining? That's a storyline there as well. And what will the offensive line look like as well? With losing L'Jarius Sneed defensively will also affect them as well. And it's a rematch of the AFC title game. It's going to be awesome. The environment is going to be crazy. I'm sure it's still warm in Kansas City decently. I expected it to be a sellout. Will Taylor Swift be there? I don't give. I don't care. There's going to be some great football on that field, and I hope everyone in the nation is watching that. It's going to be so exciting, and I'll get to what I think is going to happen a little later when we talk about bets. But that's got to be my first game that I'm excited for week one. How about you? What's your first big game?
Yeah, definitely. So my first big game is kind of following in a similar order. It's not a weekend game, but it's the Friday night game in Sao Paulo, Brazil, between the Green Bay Packers and the Philadelphia Eagles. I think this is going to be a great matchup because this is two teams that we picked both of them to finish highly in our season predictions. And so it's going to be a really fun week one matchup. We get to see where Jordan Love and the young offense of Green Bay is against this relatively similar defense in Philadelphia, the ones that we've known and loved over the last few years. Maybe not loved for you, obviously, being a Giants fan, but I think there's some pretty interesting things that we get to see. Obviously, there's been a lot of talk about how the NFL in Sao Paulo is going to be. Obviously, there's been a lot of heightened security for the players. I think Darius Slay said that they pretty much aren't allowed to leave their hotel because of the crime. So, very interesting to see how that's going to play out to see if they'll ever do another game in Brazil down the line. We get to see Saquon Barkley take his first reps as a Philadelphia Eagle. Again, I know that breaks your heart,
It
but it's
does.
really interesting to see how he's able to play behind that new Eagles O line. Obviously, losing Kelsey at center, it's going to be interesting to see that O line without him. But I think this is a great matchup that sets the tone for this NFL season. And yeah, I think it's going to be a great matchup. I think Jordan Love will get to test the waters against a great defense. So we get to truly see how competitive they're going to be this year. We might even get to see Cooper DeJean play, which I personally would love, coming out of Iowa. So I think that's going to be a great matchup. But looking at your Kansas City versus Ravens matchup, who do you think needs to be the star for either team to win? Who do you think is going to be the most important player from that game?
So the thing that I kind of look for in terms of like an early season matchup is that you're kind of figuring out the passing game, but I feel like the running game is pretty much set from the get-go. The O-line didn't change that much for the Ravens, but adding Derrick Henry to that backfield, I really think Derrick Henry is going to get a bunch of carries. And I know you're looking at me like, oh, Lamar Jackson, he's the best rushing quarterback in the NFL. Like, why wouldn't they do QB run stuff like that? They will. I think it's going to be run heavy. And can you imagine that first read option? Derrick Henry, the options are hand off to Derrick Henry up the middle or Lamar in space. It's going to be ridiculous. But I really think if Derrick Henry can get it going, start grinding the gears of the Kansas City defense, wearing them down into that fourth quarter, it's going to be huge for the Ravens. And, for Kansas City, it's going to be how can we combat that? Are we going to blitz and kind of make Lamar beat us with his arm? What are they going to do Are they going to stack the box? Are they going to just let it happen? Who knows? But I'm really interested to see how Derek kind of fits in that dynamic Ravens offense. And same question goes for you. Who do you think is going to be the X factor in Packers and Eagles in Brazil?
I think for me, defensively, I'm going to go with Jalen Carter. I think we've talked a lot about how good this Eagles defense is, and they've retained a lot of players in this offseason. For me, David Bakhtiari, he's had his struggles. He regressed. Obviously, he was dealing with injuries last season. And we've talked a little bit about this Packers O line. Obviously, people thought that they reached with Jordan Morgan in the draft, coming in as an offensive tackle. So I think it's going to be really interesting to see how they're able to contain this strong Eagles D line. I think if Jordan Love is under constant pressure, he might struggle because they have a stout secondary. So I think that he is going to be defensively one of the biggest players to watch. And I might go with Christian Watson for offensive player to look for. Obviously, he has been kind of the semi wide receiver one from last season for the Packers. Obviously, Jaden Reed and Romeo Dubs kind of grew into their own, and then Luke Musgraves was hit or miss so far in his rookie season. But I think the Green Bay Packers are a team that severely need to figure out who their star receiver is in order to be successful. And I think if he can come in and have a good game with some good stats against a team that has a great secondary like the Philadelphia Eagles, that can provide some confidence for the Packers going forward in a very difficult NFC North division this year. And I think for me, yeah, Jalen Carter and Christian Watson are probably the two to look out for. Obviously, Josh Jacobs and Saquon are both debuting. Those are going to be fun to watch, but the Packers are a team that want to throw the ball. And so if they can define who their wide receiver one is, I think that'll set the tone early for them this season. Moving on, though, who is your second biggest matchup and the best storyline for this week?
So I went with the first game of the weekend, and I'm going with the last game of the weekend as well. As New York Jets are headed to San Fran to face the 49ers. Obviously, San Francisco's been in the news a bit this week, both with Ricky Pearsall getting robbed basically and getting shot. Obviously, he's okay, which thank goodness. And then obviously signing Brandon Ayuk to that huge deal, that huge extension. They finally got it done. But the biggest storyline, it's pretty obvious. Aaron Rodgers coming back from a torn Achilles. He only played 5 snaps for the Jets last year, and they were the best 5 snaps of our friend Anthony, our diehard Jets fan friend Anthony's life. He was so excited, but now he's back. They got weapons. They drastically overhauled the offensive line. Hopefully that helps. Obviously, got a fully healthy Breece Hall, Garrett Wilson. The defense is star-studded. I want to see if the Jets are going to be able to hang in there. I do not think they're going to win this game, but it'll be a very interesting for the weeks coming forward if they're able to keep it a one possession game because the Niners are loaded. Just simply put, they should be the favorite in the NFC by far based on what we've seen. But if the Jets are able to go toe to toe with them, that'll be huge. Not only for the confidence of the team, but for the confidence of like a guy like Saleh, the coach of the team, someone that's on the hot seat. If they're able to make a statement in week one, Robert Saleh will feel a little bit better about his job. And that's a pretty big deal because you don't want the brakes falling off. Not with this team. This team is win now or bust. It could be Aaron Rodgers' last year. We haven't talked about it, or the media hasn't talked about it, but it very well could be, no matter the outcome. So this is going to be a huge game for the Jets. For the Niners, what I'm looking for is just be the same team that you were last year. A couple of plays go your way, you're hoisting the Lombardi instead of the Chiefs. So just keep playing the same. But that is going to be a spectacular game, and I cannot wait to see Aaron Rodgers actually get to play in a Jets uniform. Fingers crossed, of course. Do not hope he suffers the same fate he did last year, but that's really where I'm going with that. How about you for your second game?
Yeah, so I went a little different direction. Obviously, we've highlighted a lot of great matchups on paper, but this one for me, I was looking at once, the schedules kind of got situated a few months ago. And I thought this could be a really interesting game to see where both teams are stacking up. I went with the Seattle Seahawks versus the Denver Broncos. The game is in Seattle. But a lot of the things that I were thinking of is we finally get to see Bo Nix in a game where he gets to be the starting quarterback from start to finish. How is he going to do? Is he going to shine? One of the biggest things that I noted, obviously, Jerry Jeudy has left the Broncos this offseason. So how is Cortland Sutton going to do stepping into that wide receiver one position? Obviously, how's Troy Franklin going to do? Javonte Williams coming back from that ACL tear. Is he going to stay healthy? Is he going to have that production? How's that O-line going to step up? There's a lot that we get to see in terms of improvement from Denver. I mean, this is a team that you and I both had struggling in our predictions, but we kind of finally get to see where they're at. And I think that's going to be really fun to watch. Obviously, today, Pat Surtain just re-signed to the Broncos. I think that's an interesting signing. We get to see a lockdown corner in Denver, which I think is great. And then on the other hand, a team that really didn't make a whole lot of changes this offseason in the Seattle Seahawks. Kind of struggled. They didn't have the season really that they wanted to last season, but relatively it's the same team. Obviously, they picked up Sam Howell as a backup to Geno Smith, and I think that's something that's important to me is seeing how Geno plays this season. I noted that a lot last week in our video, but I think Geno Smith is getting to that age where we're going to get regression, and obviously he has a star-studded offense around him. Kenneth Walker, DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett and Jackson Smith and Jigba. So this is an offense that's still put together, and you have a great secondary with Tariq Woolen and Devon Witherspoon behind them. So this is a team that really isn't a boomer bust season for me. And they're going against a team that may not have a lot of expectations around them in Denver. So I think it's great that we get to kind of see where each teams are at going into week one and going towards the rest of the season. Will Sean Payton be able to get it done and turn this team around with Bo Nix? Who knows? Is Geno Smith still at that level? It's the first year without Pete Carroll, too. So I think there's a lot of really interesting things to look at in that Seattle versus Denver game.
I wanted to ask this since you're obviously Oregon fan, huge Oregon fan. Bo Nix came from Oregon. What does Bo Nix need to do in this game to make you like be impressed with what do you think a good not stat line per se, but like what do you need to see from him to be like, okay, he's got control?
So obviously, I say this a lot when I look at rookie quarterbacks. They're going to be nervous. They're going to be a little frantic. They're going to throw some balls that they shouldn't. But I really just want to see how he stays calm in certain, positions in the game. These third and longs that they're going to get into. Maybe late in the game if they're down a touchdown or two. How is he going to handle and maintain the composure when they're playing in a very difficult place to play like Seattle? So I'm not expecting him to go out and say, oh, he's going to have an 80% completion percentage, 3 touchdowns, and throw for 300 passing yards. I don't think that's realistic. But Bo Nix is a player that loves to play under pressure. He's good rolling out. He's good staying in the pocket. He's good at throwing these short to mid-range passes. So, going to the speed of the NFL, I really just want to see how he is in terms of composure. And if he can stay composed and play well in these pressure positions, like a third and long or, a second and long, and under pressure getting blitzed. If he's able to maintain composure and have these good plays around him, I think that will give me confidence going forward. Now, if he's going out and he's playing reckless, you can tell he's nervous, throwing bad passes constantly, he's not making the right reads. I might be concerned, but if he's able to stay composed and just do what he can and what he did at Oregon, I think for me, I'll be confident in him.
And, that's part of it is that he's pretty mature for a rookie quarterback. He is the third oldest rookie quarterback to make a start. Brandon Weeden is the next at 28. Obviously, Bo Nix is 24. But it'll be really cool to see him. And he's, like you said, he's getting dropped right into the fire playing in Seattle, one of the hardest places to play, no doubt. So now that we're through our games of the week, now it's time to go to our locks of the week. Now, not gambling advice. Do not blame us if these don't hit, but they're gonna.
Of course.
They're gonna. So we each picked two touchdown scores and two bets that we were looking at for the week. So Andrew, you want to get us started with your two picks that aren't touchdown scores?
Of course. And so for the fans listening, I also put the parlay odds down. I put all of these personally betted it myself. It is a plus 1,500 parlay for the four legs. So $10 will win you $160. A little footnote, please gamble responsibly if you're riding with us. Make sure you're above the legal age of 21. But my first money line bet that I put is the Buffalo Bills. They're going and playing at home against a really kind of struggling Arizona team. We talked about it. Neither of us are that high on Arizona. I think again, this is another game with some storylines. We get to see where this Buffalo team is going. They've had a lot of change on both offense and defense, losing like the likes of Stephon Diggs and Gabe Davis. And a lot like Jordan Poyer on defense. DeMar Hamlin is starting at safety week 1, which is, big news. But I think Buffalo is just the better team on paper. They're currently, when I took the bet, they were minus 332. And I think to me, that's probably the biggest lock. There might be some growing pains in Buffalo's offense, but I think overall they'll get the job done. And then my second money line that I think honestly is kind of free money for me. I have the Dallas Cowboys going to Cleveland and winning, and that is a plus 122 bet. And to me, I think it's going to be a great matchup. I think it's going to be close, but putting the underdogs as Dallas, yes, they're on the road, but I think you just paid CeeDee Lamb. Dak is on a contract year. Micah Parsons is looking for a new contract. Obviously, they're having Deron Bland out, but Trayvon Diggs is coming back from injury. So I think this is going to be a game that Dallas should control from start to finish. I think it'll be close. It might be a touchdown score or a field goal, but I think ultimately Dallas is the better team, and I think they'll set the tone week 1 and get a win. What about you? What are your two money line locks for the week?
Okay, so first of all, I wanted to say I did not know the Cowboys were underdogs. I like that pick a lot because that just seems like a game where the Cowboys, go above and beyond and look like the best team in the NFL and kind of win there in Cleveland. But for me, I talked about it a little bit, Ravens Chiefs. I'm big on the Ravens spread +3. It is minus 120 right now. Lamar Jackson has covered every single spread in his career when being the primetime underdog. He's 9-0 in that category. The Ravens are 19-5 against the spread as an underdog during Lamar Jackson's tenure as the starting quarterback. It's a week 1 matchup with a really tight spread, obviously, just being 3 points between two good teams that played in the AFC title game. I could easily see either Harrison Butker or Justin Tucker kicking a game-winning field goal for either side, really. In which case it would be a win if it was Justin Tucker or a push if it was Harrison Butker. So I'm looking at it this way. The Ravens want revenge. It's clear. They've been talking about it. They made the moves. Now go. It's put up or shut up time for them. So they got to come out and win this game, in my opinion, if they want momentum going forward. For the Chiefs, obviously, it's an NFL game. It's going to have playoff implications come when the year finishes. But there's not as much to play for. For the Ravens, there's a lot to play for. For the Chiefs, it's just another game, and maybe that's the way that they prefer it. But I really like the Ravens +3 there. Not confident enough to go money line, but 3 is such a close spread that you might as well if you wanted that odds boost there. For my other one, it's going to be a favorite. I'm going to take the Houston Texans money line. It's minus 152 right now on FanDuel. The Colts are 0-9-1 in their last 10 week 1 games. They're the only team not to win a week 1 game in the last 10 years. And of course, now I'm going to say that, and the Colts are going to come out and win by 21. But I'm going to take it for the time being. I like the Texans offense. It's going to be new look with Stephon Diggs and Joe Mixon. But the Colts defense is pretty good as well, but I'll take the high flying offense. I think CJ Stroud is going to step into that upper echelon of QBs in this league and really print himself as elite. And I really think the Houston Texans are a team that could sneak up on us come playoff time and make their way to like the AFC title game or something like that, even a Super Bowl if you're not paying attention to them. Anthony Richardson's gonna be rusty. I mean, it's his first actual game in a long, long time, in almost a year. So he's gonna be rusty, and even when he's not rusty, he has not done enough for me passing the ball specifically for me to be afraid to bet against him. I don't see the explosiveness from the Colts yet. And I really do think that he's going to struggle a little bit. I do think they're going to hand the ball off to Jonathan Taylor, but I don't think you're going to be able to keep up with the Texans offense, if that makes sense, if you're just handing the ball off while they're bombing it down the field, kind of scoring every 2 possessions or something like that. The Colts are going to need to be pretty sharp offensively if they want to win this game. So for that reason, I'm going to take the Texans money line at minus 152. But like I said, not gambling advice, and I have been known to be like, "Hey, this team is gonna win," but who cares? Who cares?
Exactly. We're all about having fun here.
Yeah, yeah.
Exactly. So moving forward now too, we talked about it. We took two that are money line or spread and two that are anytime touchdown or first time, depending, touchdown score locks. So with that being said, who were your two, or who was your first and your second touchdown scores that you think are locks for this week?
So first one's really simple. It kind of bounces off one of the picks that you made with the Bills over the Cardinals. James Cook, anytime touchdown, it's only plus 100. The way that I look at it is he's the only running back in that backfield right now that's going to get consistent touches. He's going to be the check down guy. He's already great at that. He's going to get most of the handoffs. If they get down to the goal line and Josh Allen isn't running it in himself, it's going to be James Cook if they run the ball. So I love that. I think he's versatile. I think he's going to play most of the game. Maybe Ray Davis gets a couple of snaps, but I really don't see James Cook subbing out that much. And I do think that the Cardinals' defense is not very good. Just simply put, it's not very good. Even if they're up, that just means that James Cook's going to get more touches towards the end of the game. But I really like that. Even if the Bills' offense doesn't, like, let's say the Cardinals come out, surprise them and kind of putting a shellacking on them offensively. James Cook's still one of the most likely guys to score if the Bills score. So I'll take that. Josh Allen unfamiliar with the wide receiving core for the most part. Got to get used to it. So I think they rely maybe not on the run game, but James Cook in screens and flat routes, stuff like that, since he's so versatile. So I feel confident that he'll reach the end zone week one. And then the other one, I'm going to go DJ Moore anytime touchdown at plus 150. I think that was pretty much a bargain. I thought it was going to be like plus 120 or 130 compared to like a guy like CeeDee Lamb who's plus 125. But DJ Moore, what's a rookie quarterback's, best friend? A star wide receiver. DJ Moore is that guy for Caleb Williams. And if we expect Caleb to be as good as he is, he's going to feed DJ Moore at least a little bit. The Titans the defensive backfield is pretty good when you look at it. I assume L'Jarius Sneed is probably going to follow him for most of the game, who's obviously really good, signed over from the Chiefs, as we talked about earlier when reflecting on the Chiefs defense. But I don't care. He's going to throw him the ball. DJ Moore, he goes off some games. Fantasy wise, I drafted him in a bunch of my fantasy leagues. I think that Caleb finds him early and often. Even I think that he'll be the primary read on most of the pass plays that they run downfield. So I think that helps. Um, but I really like DJ Moore to score, and I think that Soldier Field is going to absolutely go ballistic when Caleb Williams throws his first touchdown pass, especially in Chicago. And I think that we could be seeing the next great QB wide receiver connection this Sunday that's really building. And in order to do that, you need reps in game. And obviously, I think DJ Moore will be that number one option for Caleb down the stretch, starting off in week one. So those are my two. James Cook, DJ Moore, and then my other two picks were Texans money line and Ravens plus 3. Right now it would be 10 to win 148. So sitting at 1,480 plus odds right there for me. So who you got for your touchdown scores of week
Yeah.
one?
So I have one that is relatively practical. I think it's kind of a no-brainer, and one that's a stretch, but I believe in it. So I'll start with my practical one. The first one is Tyreek Hill, anytime touchdown, sitting at minus 115 right now. And to me, again, we talked about it a lot last week in our predictions. I don't see the Jacksonville Jaguars being that solid this year. And we talked a lot. You had Tyreek Hill as your offensive player of the year in your predictions. And I think he'll start hot from week one. I think Tua is going to look to feed him. He's going to get open. He's going to run those deep posts and those go routes. He's going to burn the secondary in Jacksonville. There's not a lot of analytics or anything. It's more of just a gut feeling. Tyreek's going to have another great season, and I think he's going to start off hot. Minus 115, it's pretty much assumed that he will score. And so for me, when I was building out the parlay for it and I was looking at the odds, I went, it's going to happen. And yes, Jalen Waddle might have a chance to score. Devon Achane might, or Raheem Mostert might. But if you want a guy on that Miami Dolphins offense that you have to put your life on the line to score, it's going to be Tyreek Hill. It's a no-brainer. To me, it's probably the biggest lock out of my four picks. And yeah. And then my second, which is a little bit of a stretch, I have Andre Iosivas from
Oh,
Cincinnati Bengals on an anytime touchdown. And yes, he's a wide receiver 3 right now, but the way that I looked at it, and it changed a little bit because, of course, an hour after I bet it, Jamar Chase decides to practice. But I did it under the assumption we don't know if Jamar is going to be ready to go week one. He was limited in practice today. He's still holding out, trying to re-sign a new contract. So whether he plays or not, I still think it benefits Iosivas a lot. He's either going to be that wide receiver two or that wide receiver three. If Jamar doesn't go, who is the best defensive corner on that Patriots team? It's Christian Gonzalez. He's going to be on T. Higgins, if not Jamar Chase. If he's on T, that secondary really doesn't have a star in my eyes outside of Christian Gonzalez. In the early days of the preseason, Joe Burrow said to expect a big season out of Andre Iosivas, and I think he, starts to make a name for himself. He had a couple games with good production towards the end of last season, and I think he really wants to kind of staple himself into this Bengals offense. Obviously, we don't know what Chase Brown and Zach Moss will be able to do in the run game. So I think they'll look to pass, and Burrow wants to kind of prove himself still. So I think he's going to want to get some stats up, and I think Iosivas could easily get a touchdown. It's sitting at plus 195 when I took it, but I think it could definitely happen. I think it'll be a fun little touchdown. It was a little bit of a risk, but I like it. I also have him in my dynasty league, so I'm hoping for a big year out of him. But to recap, Bills money line, Dallas money line, Andre Iosivas touchdown anytime, and Tyreek Hill anytime touchdown. It's a four-leg parlay plus 1,500. It'll pay out 160 if you put 10 on it. Those are my locks for the week. I think we both have a pretty good parlay going. I think both of these could easily hit. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm looking at it and I'm feeling it like of the picks that I would not be confident of, it would be the Ravens spread. But like I said, the math backs it up, and I really think that they're going to play. But yeah, I agree. I think these are both, kind of parlays that you could see hitting and just not even realize it. With Andre Yosibas, first of all, Princeton grad, New Jersey guy. But that's like a guy that I could easily see scoring week one and being like, damn, why didn't I bet that? Like some kind of, because you got to think, like you said, Jamar Chase plays or doesn't play. They're going to be focusing on T. Higgins and Jamar Chase. They're not going to be focusing on Andre Yosivas. You could easily see the nickelback, like one-on-one coverage with him for most of the game, if not a safety. So I really like that because he's going to be, if Jamar's not playing, he's more likely to be in the slot. But even if Jamar's playing, he'll get some time in the slot as well as outside, probably at that the right side. I think it's a Z. That's what it would be at Z for the Bengals there. So that good. I'm proud of both of our selections, and we'll come back next show and see what we got.
Yeah, we will.
Hopefully,
We'll be keeping record throughout the season to see
oh yeah.
who is the best at betting. And yeah, it's going to be fun. It's a little game we're going to play. Obviously, like we said at the beginning, if you're riding with us or if you're fading us, just gamble responsibly. Don't bet the house just because you want to. Make sure you're having safe practices while gambling.
Oh, for sure. For sure. Definitely something that you don't want to risk. All
Definitely.
right, moving on. So we kind of got a new segment here, so something that I assume we'll be doing throughout the weeks, and that is going to be stock up, stock down at the college football ranks. Now, this could either be prospects in terms of the NFL draft, it could be just based on like Heisman standings, it could also be coaches in the stock up, stock down. But we're headed to college football because obviously Andrew and I, we love all football. NFL, college, doesn't matter. We're sitting in front of our TVs for 10 hours. So we're paying attention to this stuff here. So Andrew, who you got for your stock ups of week one?
Yes. So similar to our betting, we did two stock up and two stock down. Starting off, my first player who I think stock is rising, both in terms of college football radar as well as probably the NFL radar come April, is Tetaroa McMillan, the junior wide receiver from Arizona. He had a phenomenal game. Yes, it was against New Mexico, but to me, week one is all about seeing where you're at. And he put up a stat line of 10 catches, 304 receiving yards, and four touchdown catches. And, it doesn't matter who you're playing against. A stat line like that will open eyes to NFL scouts. And to me, Arizona is a team that's very interesting when looking at the Big 12 this year. They had a great season to end off in the Pac 12. And it was kind of a lot of ups and downs. How are they going to be once they transfer into the Big 12? And again, like I said, it is New Mexico. But when you're talking about competing for a Big 12 title, you need a star in your offense that can score. You need a play, you need a deep ball, something to keep you in a game. And Tetaroa McMillan definitely proved this week that he can do that. And I think, come April, NFL scouts are going to be looking at him heavily. That being said, I went defensively for my second stock rising, and I went with Mateo Uungalele, the defensive end from the University of Oregon. And yes, looking at it, obviously I am an Oregon fan, so there's a little bit of bias. We struggled in terms of scoring against the University of Idaho. We dropped 4 rankings from 3 to 7. But when I looked at that defense, the Oregon defense played really well overall. Obviously, they allowed 14 points, but one of the key pieces was Mateo Uungalele. And yes, he had 2 sacks and 3 total tackles for the game, but he looked poised. He's only a sophomore, and he was a key part of the Oregon defense last year, and he looked to have taken a step up. Yes, it was Idaho, they're an FCS school, but when I want to see young players taking that step up in a defense that's stacked, Bassa, Uungalele, they have a lot of transfers that come in the secondary too. So a lot of people may forget the DNs in that Oregon defense, but he really stepped up for me, and I really liked what I saw, and I think he's going to be a big piece of this Oregon defense this year, and potentially next year he might be a top pick in the draft. But yeah, so I had Tetaroa McMillan and Mateo Uungalele as my two stock risers. What did you have for your stock risers?
So first off, I want to say someone's got to carry that name after DJ put out 2 stinkers to start the year. So Mateo's carrying it proudly for the Uungalele family there. But for my stock up, I'm gonna go pretty simple, I would say. 2 obvious guys that showed out. The first one's Travis Hunter of Colorado. Obviously, he's a junior, but he's going to be in the NFL draft. Both collegiately for the Heisman and for the NFL draft, it was stock up for him. He played 129 snaps. There was only 2 offensive or defensive plays that he was not in the game for, which is just wild. He had 7 catches for 132 yards and 3 touchdowns. Now, mind you, it was against North Dakota State, but I also kind of feel like North Dakota State is the best of the best when you think of FCS competition. He also had 3 tackles on the defensive end. And if you guys watch that game, the tackles that he made were coming downhill. They were explosive. He didn't look tired for the entire game, which I thought was the most impressive thing. And I know NFL scouts are going to be looking at that. I'm pretty sure there was 29 something teams at that game, both to watch Shedeur and Travis Hunter. But Travis Hunter stole the show. He was unguardable. He made some ridiculous catches. Obviously, the one in the corner of the end zone to what ended up being the game-winning touchdown was ridiculous, with the guy's arm basically locking his other arm, and he still caught it. I would argue that's harder than catching it one-handed, is somehow managing to catch it two at that angle, falling down, being just absolutely pressed. But incredible athlete. I have no idea where he was going to play. I know coming into the year, like Mel Kiper and Todd McShay kind of thought that he would be drafted as a wide receiver, but now I'm not so sure. After this first game, if he's able to keep it up, and they got a big game at Nebraska, it's going to be a huge game this weekend, and I'm going to watch every second of it to see if he can hold up. But if he's able to do this without getting injured this year, I know he got injured last year, kind of a dirty hit if you ask me, but he still did get injured. If he's able to do this for the whole year, hand him the Heisman. Just give him the Heisman, give him a top 5 draft pick, but he's got to do that first. We all know what kind of athlete he is. He could probably, if he trained for a couple months, go and run in the Olympics if he wanted to. But just an amazing athlete, and I see him as someone that definitely improved his stock. He was already supposed to be at the top of the boards, but now he's probably the guy when you think of the first overall, the best player in college football right now. The other guy, Cam Ward, a super senior quarterback, just transferred in from Washington State to Miami. They shellacked Florida in the swamp. Easiest way to put it. You can't find a quarterback with a better stat line compared to him currently. He did have 1 interception. It was tipped, but it was an interception nonetheless. But he was awesome. He threw for 385 yards, 3 touchdowns. He ran the ball. If you watch the game, you saw how nonchalant he was, just walking out of bounds sometimes, which I thought was hilarious. But his mobility looked amazing. his ability to throw off platform, off 1 foot, cross body, stuff like that. Just put it where you want it to go. Miami hasn't had a quarterback like this in a long, long time. This is going to be the year for Miami because of Cam Ward in part. But his size, he's got it. He's NFL size. He's got the arm talent. He's got the mobility that we're kind of moving towards in the NFL. But it's going to come with time. But for right now, Cam Ward, he's not seen as a top draft pick in terms of quarterback, but I could easily see him start to rise because of this weekend if he continues it for the rest of the season for the Hurricanes. So yeah, those are my two stock ups, Travis Hunter and Cam Ward.
Definitely. Those are two guys who had phenomenal performances. And it's really fun to see the kind of the transformation of Cam Ward. Obviously, he played at Incarnate Word, and then he got his break last season at Washington State, where, obviously Washington State didn't have the record that they wanted, but they were an exciting team to watch. And he was a main factor in that. So it's going to be fun to watch Cam Ward down the line. Now, looking towards your stock falling, who were your two players or anybody who were your two stocks that you thought dropped after week one?
So the first guy did not even play a snap, but I'm going to explain why his stock went down. And part of the reason, obviously, is because he didn't play. And that's going to be Trevor Etienne, transfer from Florida to Georgia. That used to be a no-no, but now no one cares because it's basically NIL, NFL, basically. But he's running back. He transferred in. This is supposed to be his breakout year, kind of bolt himself into that top five of running backs for the draft class. But then he got suspended to open the season. I don't know the specificity of the suspension, but it's not a good look either way to get suspended for the first game. He's going to have to explain that in every single combine meeting that he goes on with every single team. Running backs are becoming kind of not obsolete per se. They're being used a lot, but they're not the same. Like we're seeing star running backs not get contracts from their teams because we're seeing that so many people can play running back. And when you have a situation like this with the running back position kind of being taken less and less as a premium, you need to stand out like a lot. Like Genty from Boise State, he stood out. Trevor Etienne getting suspended first game. Personality problems are not going to fly in the NFL, and it's not a good look. Not to mention, if he had a good game against a pretty stout Clemson defense, it would have helped him a lot. So he really missed out. The personality issues are kind of the main factor for me in choosing him to be stocked down. But if he comes back and he lights it up and he gets like 1,200 yards behind that Georgia line, then we'll be saying something different. But I don't think that's really likely, especially with a team like Georgia where you can kind of rotate guys because they're all so talented. And then my second stock down, it wasn't at all in the college ranks. I still think this guy is going to be in the Heisman race the whole way, and I expect that this is really just a fluke, basically, game. And that's going to be Dylan Gabriel. I'm sorry, Andrew, but his stat line, amazing. I'm not going to lie. 41 for 48, 380 yards, 2 touchdowns, but he did have negative 23 rushing yards. That's because of sacks. I don't count that. He had 3 sacks taken and he did fumble once. Now, the issue with my kind of watching the game, breaking it down, my issue with Dylan is that not that he doesn't have the talent. He obviously does. He's able to put the ball in anywhere, really. Tight windows, accuracy. He's mobile. He makes great decisions. He's pretty experienced. But key third downs in that game, like this game should not have been as close as it was. And I think Andrew knows that as well. He kind of mentioned it. But the struggles on third down and in the red zone, not being able to finish drives. Now, as Andrew mentioned, I didn't watch the whole game. Andrew kind of brought me in on it. The offensive line did have some penalties. But still, Dylan, you didn't go into the NFL draft so you could improve your draft stock. You have to play better than you did at Oklahoma. So I'm not really seeing that. I kind of see his draft stock staying even. So for that reason, it's actually a stock down because the point of transferring to Oregon was to improve it, become in that top tier of quarterback. Now, I don't think this is going to last. I think that he comes back. We're playing Boise State this week. I think he's going to light it up. And I think he's going to light it up probably most of the season. It's going to be interesting to see how he plays in those like late year Big Ten games because Oregon's obviously the new addition. But I don't think it'll be a struggle for him. He's uber talented and he should be in that discussion. But for me, it's a stock down because he didn't perform to my expectation of what a guy like him should be performing, and he wants to be a first round pick, and that those kind of things, those struggles in the red zone and on third down are going to be the difference between a first round pick and a second or so on for him, especially in a draft class where with a bunch of quarterbacks that we're seeing there. So yeah, those are my two stock downs, Trevor Etienne and Dylan Gabriel. So Andrew, you got any thoughts on Gabriel, or do you want to move on to your stock downs?
I'll speak a little bit. I definitely think I see it a little differently because for me, I saw everything that I wanted to see out of Dylan Gabriel. That stat line is great. I put a lot of the issues in when we had great drives going, our offensive line would have it either we'd have an illegal formation or there'd be a false start, a holding, some stalled out. There was some decision making that I didn't agree with, going on a fake punt on 4th and 3, and then we didn't get it on, I think, 4th and 2. Dan, I want to see that settled down a little bit. I don't mind it, but for me, I wanted to see a little bit more risk out of Dylan Gabriel. He played the safe option a lot, but I get that because it's a new team. There's a lot of moving pieces, getting Evan Stewart in too. That's a new player. But the run game didn't really get us settled. So I'm not super concerned yet. I understand why his stock's down in your eyes. I get it because you want to go out against an FCS opponent and you want to just clobber them. So I understand, but I'm not ready to jump on the panic train yet for that. But I'll go ahead now and I'll give my two stock falls. And the first one, again, I never really saw him as an NFL quarterback talent, but I have Cade Klubnik as my first stock falling. And I'm going to have an ACC pattern with my falling. Honorable mention Virginia Tech, poised to be a potential ACC winner, and then you go and lose to Vanderbilt in overtime. Kind of
Very.
crazy. But to Cade Klubnik, this year I looked at the ACC, and especially after the week 0 game between Georgia Tech and Florida State, the ACC felt wide open for me. It still does. It feels like it's anybody's conference other than Florida State's now. But I really wanted to see. I get it. They were playing Georgia week 1, the number one team in the country, the best team in the country. So I wasn't expecting Clemson to win, but I wanted to see how Cade Klubnik was able to do against a top defense in the country. You're going to have to win tough games in the ACC to win it this year. And he put up a stat line of 18 for 29 for 142 passing yards and an interception and no touchdown passes. And this is a lot on the lines for Dabo Sweeney. Dabo's kind of in the hot seat. How's he going to do? They haven't been really successful over the last few years, to be honest. And, Cade's kind of your guy. You put a lot of faith in him. And yes, again, Georgia is the best team in the country. But the way I look at it is if you want to be the best, you have to beat the best. And if they were in a dogfight, like a true dogfight, and Klubnik was playing well, and they lost, he wouldn't be a stock down. But you can only pass for 142 passing yards and one interception against Georgia. If you want to be an ACC champion, that's just not good enough for me. I think, Clemson still has a shot at this ACC. Obviously, it was a non-conference game, but I think this might be Miami's year to win the ACC based on how week 1's gone. Obviously, it's too early to tell, but I just was really disappointed in Klubnik, and I think in terms of the ACC quarterback rankings, his stock fell for me. And then my second stock fall, I actually went with a head coach. I went with Mike Norvell of Florida State. And this might seem like low-hanging fruit and an easy kind of target to pick, but it's not necessarily just because of this season. Yes, they're 0-2 with losses to Georgia Tech and Boston College, who have perennially been bottom feeder teams in the ACC. It's also because when you look at his 5-year tenure, including this year, 3 out of the 5 seasons he's been at Florida State, they have started 0-2. And you look at Florida State, I mean, historically as well, Florida State is a team that demands success. You don't look at past Florida State teams and go, oh, yeah, we think that they're going to start the season 0-2 and they're going to struggle. And you can't be in a program of this stature and be consistently going 0-2. Yes, they've been able to turn it around some seasons. And last year, there was a lot of controversy. They were undefeated, won the ACC, missed out on the playoffs. But if you're Mike Norvell, you have to be on the hot seat. Florida State has to be potentially looking to fire him. If they continue to struggle, why would he keep his job there? What has he done in his 5 years besides the potential, oh, we should have been in the playoffs last year? To me, that doesn't matter. You weren't, you had your year this year. Come in, prove it. You got Uunglele in the portal. You were excited about that. Obviously, he's played terribly so far. But yeah, you lose Keon Coleman too. There's some turnaround, but you have to be successful if you want to stay at Florida State. 3 out of the 5 seasons they've started 0 for 2. They haven't won a national championship in his time or even really competed for a national championship in his time. And for me, I think we could potentially be seeing him gone by the end of the season. And he is my biggest stock down for this week.
I tend to agree with you 100%. Everything that you said resonated with me. And I just wanted to add before, we kind of get it going here. Norvell, we can sit here and say, oh, the bowl game doesn't count against Georgia. They got thwacked, but all the pro players left. That is kind of it speaks to the culture of the team. You get left out of the playoff, you go play Georgia, who also got left out of the playoff and probably should have made it, and you're just gonna cower? Like Georgia's players didn't sit out. They thumped them because Georgia's players didn't sit out. But all the Florida State guys were like, hey, I'm going to the NFL. No loyalty. So not only can you say that that undefeated season was for absolutely nothing, but you didn't even win the bowl game. So there's no accolades here that I'm seeing like Mike Norvell, you should keep your job. They need to win out. I really think that they need to win out if he's going to keep his job. Even if they went 9-3 and turned it around, I think that's probably it for him because this year, I don't think they're going to be 9-3. I actually kind of see them going like 4-8 at this point. Like it's going to be ugly this year because DJU has sucked. Their backup, I think Cam Rodemaker, I think that's his name. Not very good in the times that they played. He's young, but not good nonetheless. So you're kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place here, and you're not able to hand the ball off 60 times and win games. Not in the ACC. So that they're stuck. They're stuck. So he's really got to turn it around.
Definitely. And we will continue to, update our rising and falling stocks. Probably will be different players each week, but this will become a weekly segment. And, make sure to keep tuning in and stay tuned to see who we think is going up and who's going down. All right, moving on now, we will be doing our immaculate grid for the week. All right, here we are. We have the September 4th immaculate grid open. Obviously, there's a lot of interesting squares. We got the Ravens, the Chiefs, Ravens, Panthers, Ravens and 5,000 career rushing yards, the Broncos, and Pro Bowl. So definitely a lot of interesting grids to go off of. I think Tyler might be the one who carries me through this as I'll just kind of aimlessly stare and try to think of all these old players. But yeah, let's start off. Let's try to go through it. What square do you want to try to attack first? And
I'm looking straight at that Ravens and that 5,000 rushing yards. Now, I feel like Ray Rice got it. I know Ray Rice is kind of a no-no now, and he's a bad person, but he definitely he had to have had 5,000 yards. But is that too obvious?
I
That's
know
my
that
question.
my issue is I'm trying to think of guys that had like really good careers that also played in Baltimore. Like I know like a guy like J.K. Dobbins. Is he a guy who got 5,000 career rushing yards? I don't think so. Yeah.
Uh, the other guy I was thinking, Willis McGahee,
Ooh, that's a shout.
but I don't know if he got 5,000 career yards because, most of his career was before we were conscious enough to be paying attention to that stuff.
Yeah.
So
Ooh,
I pride myself on this
yeah.
obscure football knowledge. So this, uh,
I mean, we could just chalk this one and do Ray Rice if you want.
yeah, that's gonna be a hard one. We're
Right.
neither one of us is even remotely a Ravens fan, so
Right. Yeah, but we went to school in Baltimore.
yeah, that's true.
All right. Yeah, we'll send Ray Rice. 25. That's
All
not,
right, we'll take it. We'll
yeah.
take it.
Now, this is one I have a deep cut. I guess it might not even be a deep cut, but for Kansas City in the Pro Bowl, did Christian Okoye, oh, Pro Bowl, I thought it was Hall of Fame, but was Christian Okoye a Pro Bowler?
I mean, he had to have been, right?
Yeah. I,
But
I, I but that's the thing is, did he precede the Pro Bowl? You know?
I I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah, this is difficult.
Did
This
Harrison Bucker ever make a Pro Bowl?
I don't know. I want to say that he did, but at the same time, some of the more recent Pro Bowls I haven't really
Yeah,
watched.
me either.
If we're being completely honest, we could always come back to that.
All right. All right, let's come back to it. Christian Okoye is the current slotted answer for that square there. If only I knew the lineage of Trent Dilfer's career, because then we could and then we
Yeah.
could be there.
Um,
Did Josh Johnson ever play for any of those three teams? I know he played for the Ravens. He's still on the Ravens, I think.
Josh
He
Johnson,
played for half the league, but I don't think it's this half of the league.
Niners. He was on the Commanders.
He was on the, I don't know.
Oof.
Oh, CJ Anderson,
For which box?
Panthers and Broncos. Didn't he play for the Panthers and the Broncos?
I think so.
Yeah.
Screw it. Let's send it. All right.
Let's go.
20,
Let's go. We'll
we'll
take
take the
that.
21%. That's not bad.
Oh man. Oh
Uh,
man.
and I feel like we can get some of like the Panthers. There's definitely some interesting Pro Bowl picks.
Jonathan Stewart,
Jonathan,
maybe.
was Graham Gano a Pro Bowler when he was at the Panthers?
He could have been.
We could
He
go
was
Steve
the
Smith
Giants.
too.
Yeah, Steve Smith. Yeah, I
Luke
think Ted
Kuechly.
Ginn could have been a Pro Bowler for returner.
Mm. Ah,
And
darn.
then for Pro Bowl 5,000 rushing yards, just pick. You could
Yeah.
pick it. And I was thinking Chris Johnson, but that might be too obvious.
Um, Mark Ingram, did he get to 5,000?
I don't know.
Okay. Um, yeah, let's just do Chris Johnson. Screw it.
Okay, go ahead.
For sake of
Let's hope.
recording time.
Let's hope. 2000. It's the first one.
All right, cool. 1%. Let's
Let's
go.
go.
All right, we'll take that.
I was hoping that was the case.
Yeah. Well, and the thing for me that I think we have to remember too is this guy doesn't necessarily need for like Broncos 5,000. He just had to play for the Broncos at any point
Oh, that's right.
outside in a regular season game. The thing that scared, like one that could have been a pick, but I don't remember if he played in any regular season games. I was thinking DeAnthony Thomas for Kansas City and I think Denver because I know he was definitely on Kansas City at one point, but I don't remember. I think he went to it. It was either Cleveland or Denver that he went to.
Wasn't he on the Ravens?
He might have been
I
like,
think he's on the. I think he played for the Ravens.
but the issue is I don't remember if he got regular season play time.
Hmm.
Do you want to just send Graham Gano or Panthers
Yeah,
Pro?
yeah. Send Graham Gano.
All right, we'll see. That's not how you spell it, Jesus. I can't spell. We're just gonna put Gano in
Yeah, there you go.
and hope he was a Pro Bowler. Point
Let's
five. Let's
go.
go. Shout out the kickers.
Let's go.
Um, all right. Well, that's another. We're making slow but surely we're making progress.
Hamba Hawley,
Hamba
Chiefs
Holly
Pro Bowler.
for who? Chiefs Pro. Okay, you're gonna have to help me with the spelling on that
All
one.
right, so just do Hali.
Tamba Holly. All right. 1%.
Let's go.
Oh,
Hey,
you know,
I'm a little weird, guys.
we're making progress. Um, Broncos Chiefs. Did Terrell Suggs play anywhere other than
Terrell Suggs.
Baltimore?
He did, but I don't remember where. Now all I'm thinking about is Julius Peppers. I
Yeah,
don't know why.
yeah, for real. Um,
Who? Namni Asamoah. Where did he play?
that's
Chris Harris? Did Chris Harris ever play for the Chiefs? You know who I'm talking about, right?
yeah. I
Nah, there's no way. Eric Berry. No.
where did Jacoby Jones play anywhere out? Where else did he play other than Baltimore?
All I'm thinking about right now is that touchdown from Joe Flacco that ended up winning them the AFC title game. That's all I can think of right now. But that was against the Broncos.
Yeah. Oh, he might have been a Saint.
I feel like all I can think of when I think of the Chiefs is the Mahomes era Chiefs.
Yeah, same. Like I'm trying to think of. I mean, they had Alex Smith at one point, obviously. Who played with Alex? Like I said, I want to send DeAnthony Thomas for Chiefs Ravens, but I'm scared. You know?
I would do it. Do it.
All right, screw it. And if we fail it, whatever.
Yeah.
Not meant. All right. Let's go.
Let's go.
I knew it. Shout out my Oregon boys.
Oh my goodness.
Yep.
That
He
is
was
crazy.
just punt returning for him because they didn't know what to do with him.
Wow. I knew it. I knew that too. That's a crazy shout. Good
Yeah.
Oregon shout. Let's
Yes,
go.
sir. Now I got to try to think. I'm just Denver and Carolina are the two hard ones for me.
Yeah, it's not really, there's not like too much to think about.
Yeah, I'm just trying to think of guys who had like stopgap years and where they went. Like one year where they just came off of like a Baltimore and just made their way to Carolina.
All right, so then why don't we do Broncos 5,000 career rushing yards, Terrell Davis.
All right.
It's
That,
gonna be, I think,
oh, well, okay. I thought his name would just pop up.
of course, the bar went away, right? There you go.
All right, 40. That was
Yeah,
obvious. That's fine. In the sake of getting it done.
gotta take what you gotta take.
Yeah, exactly. I honestly I can't think of any um, guys. Again, I'm trying to think for like Kansas City, like Jamal Charles. I know he didn't play for Denver, I don't
Uh,
think. Um,
Kyle Orton. Did
Kyle,
Kyle Orton play for the Chiefs? I feel like Kyle Orton played for the Chiefs
let's
because
just oh, yeah,
he definitely played for the Broncos.
let's just send it.
Oh God.
Let's go.
Let's go.
Let's
Let's go.
go. All right.
Yeah. Yeah. Ravens, Panthers. Ravens, Panthers. Ravens, Panthers.
Trying to think of like tight ends too.
Yeah, I was thinking Julius Thomas.
Yeah, and I was like, of course, if it was Bengals, we could have gotten like Hayden Hurst.
Yeah, that would have been pretty that we would have figured that one out pretty easily, I
Yeah,
feel
no, exactly. Was Billy Cundiff ever on the Panthers?
like.
Because he was on. I feel like
Koch. Why am I thinking Koch?
the
Did he ever
punter.
Yeah, did he ever pump for the Panthers?
Not that I remember, dude. I kind of want if it was Commanders because I know Cundiff's played for both the Ravens and the Commanders because I was talking about him with my buddy like last week because he whiffed the game-winning field goal against New England in the AFC Championship game. I know that's random.
Oh, speaking of random, but also kind of obvious, we completely missed Steve Smith.
Yeah, yeah.
Is Steve Smith played for both of them?
Oh, yeah. He played for the Ravens?
Yeah, he played for the Ravens at the end.
I think that was who I was thinking of when I,
Yes,
yeah, okay. There we go. We're dumb. We spent all that time and it's Steve
because
Smith.
I was trying to think of position players that he might be a high percentage, but
There
all
we go.
right,
We got it
all
done.
right.
77%.
Yeah, because no one else knows,
Yeah.
doesn't know anything.
So
There you go, guys. We're
the
pros.
most, yeah, most common Orlando Brown, of
Orlando Brown.
course.
Jamal Charles played for the Broncos?
And I said that too. And I said, I don't think he went to Denver. I'm so stupid. I know my division. All right. Thank you guys so much for tuning in to this week's episode. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe if you're new. Follow us on TikTok at Sideline Signal. As always, Tyler, thank you for joining me this week.
Of course.
And, we will continue to be posting weekly content and we will have a recap from week one sometime next week. Thank you all and make sure to subscribe.